So there's a story, and this we're going to start the show today, that Mike Vrabel, who's about 6'4.5", big guy, good-looking big guy, physical football player, tough guy. Football players are tough. That his size intimidated people. And that's why some people didn't want to hire him. If The Rock was 5'3.5", 140 pounds, he wouldn't be The Rock. He'd be the Pebble. Size matters. Taller men make more money. It's not an opinion. Look it up. And Mike Vrabel, if he was 5'6", would be somewhat intimidating. He's a tough guy. He's kind of intense looking, right? He's going to pitch you crap. He's got that sort of Boston personality. But I actually see it as an advantage. I'll give you an example. If you told me who are the toughest 4 football coaches in the NFL, if they all got into a fight, I'd say Mike Tomlin, Dan Campbell, Vrabel, and Jim Harbaugh. And I do think their size and physicality, it's easier to relate to some players. And those coaches' teams are all known as physical and tough. Vrabel's teams, Tomlin's teams, Harbaugh's teams, physicality. They have an alpha, it bleeds to the team. I think you can connect with certain players, relate to former players. And again, taller men make more money. Size does matter. But this is really about NFL teams. And I was joking with Mike on text last night. I said, I know you're too tall to get a job and too big, but are you too tall for us to text? I think this is NFL teams losing sight of Vrabel's greatest gift, and that's communication. Nick Saban's 5'7.5". Intimidating, great communicator. Mike McDaniel, 5'9", great communicator. Sean McVay, 5'10", great communicator. Dan Campbell, 6'5.5", built like a house, great communicator. That's what this sport is. And big men sometimes are better communicators because players connect with them. Not all the time. Where you get in trouble with big men in and out of football is when they've used it as a crutch since high school. They're known as meatheads. That's not Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel's really sharp, gets the game, great communicator. Was I surprised he didn't get one of the 8 jobs? No, because he's really smart. So is, in my opinion, Ben Johnson. And they both thought the best job and the only great job was Justin Herbert and the Chargers. And both Ben Johnson and Vrabel are smart enough to realize if you don't have a really good quarterback, it doesn't matter how good of a coach you are. Go ask Bill Belichick. Next year, you could have 5 to 7 B+ and above quarterbacks that need a coach. So I thought he was the best coach available that didn't get a job. I consider him right now in 2024 the best coach available because Bill Belichick is not as collaborative and clearly offensively not as current. But if a GM is worried about being intimidated, then it's probably a team you don't want to work for. It really is. But is intimidation relevant? Does size matter? Yes, I see it as an advantage. As long as you're not a meathead who's relied on that size since high school to get your way, and Vrabel hasn't. He was always one of the more thoughtful players. He was always a thoughtful coach. Got to an AFC championship with a B to a B- quarterback, multiple division titles, 6 years, 4 wins. It's not his problem. Will Levis couldn't get him to the promised land. All right. So one of the things that is an epidemic in this country, and boy, do you see it on social media, guys, women don't, guys struggle to admit they're wrong. I do a segment every Monday saying, Colin right, Colin wrong. I don't, because I don't think anybody's perfect. I make mistakes every week. I have a strong opinion. It's completely wrong. I'm totally comfortable with it. I would be uncomfortable not moving off a position and doubling down. The Giants on Daniel Jones. He's not it. Now he can't even stay healthy. What are you doing? So I didn't think the Clippers would work with James Harden. Man, was I wrong. A couple of weeks ago, I started really, really watching them closely. Remember, they were like 0-5 when they put them together. It was a mess. Then they got hot. They right now have the best, easiest offense in the league. I watched them drop 149 last night. They have the number 1 offensive rating. The Paul George-Kawhi combo is number 1 in the league, plus 346. They get a great look every time down the floor. They don't have a single player in the NBA in the top 35 usage rate. Not one. The ball moves. And a couple of nights ago, just happenstance, I ended up sitting down at a place. I go for dinner occasionally. Lawrence Frank, the president of the Clippers, was sitting next door. We sat and talked for an hour. Great guy. And he said, James Harden, he goes, I didn't know him before, all about winning. He has been unbelievable. And I watched again last night. I watched them roll the Celtics last week. This is the best offense in the league. It's an absolute joy to watch. Much more watchable on most nights than the Lakers, than the Bucks. Even the Celtics, it is a blast to watch. All their stars have bought in, and that's the key when you have multiple stars. Russell Westbrook's like all come off the bench. Let me tell you something. This Westbrook is fantastic. He had a great pass last night. He's a more willing defender. He's absolute energy. Their bench is excellent. They've got real scoring. Terrence Mann, Kawhi, Paul George, Harden, Coffey. They've got nothing but guys. And I watched them last night, and here's the great thing about him. All these stars and one guy has a ring, Kawhi, and he's got a couple of them. So all these guys now are rich. They're all famous. They're all trying to get a ring. Westbrook, Harden, Paul George, veteran. And here's the other thing. They've got all the boxes. Veteran point guard, helps in the playoffs. 2 great wings, scorers and defenders, huge in the playoffs. Solid bench, size in Plumlee and Zubac, experienced head coach, experienced players in the playoffs. I have no problem acknowledging, wow, was I wrong on this puppy. Lob City, remember Lob City, Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan. Wasn't a ton of substance to it. Blake Griffin couldn't hit a perimeter shot. DeAndre Jordan can't do anything but dunk. And Chris Paul's more distribution than score. Lob City was a lot of flash and fun, but there wasn't a lot of substance to it. This team is all substance. They defend on the wing. Smart veteran point guard who can distribute. Bench scoring. Veteran coach. Multiple bigs. I have no problem admitting I was wrong. I watched them 4 or 5 games in a row now and watched most of the game. I watched the second half last night. It is unbelievable how easily they move the ball and get a shot. They get a great look virtually every time down the floor. And that's not the way the NBA works. There's a lot of forced threes and forced shots. They get a great look every time down the floor. Kawhi doesn't have to start the offense. Either does Paul George. They've got guards to do it. Westbrook's energy off the bench. This is a great basketball team and absolutely capable of winning the championship. There's not a doubt in my mind. You can play all the defense you want. The teams winning the titles get the buckets down the stretch. This team gets a great look with great offensive performers every possession to the end. Chris Mannix yesterday on this team.
If they're not the favorite to win the championship in June, they are in a small group of teams that you would consider that. James Harden, as he did in Philadelphia, let's be clear on that, has adapted his game to make it work playing opposite Paul George and opposite of Kawhi Leonard. Russell Westbrook did not sulk, did not throw a fit. He went out and accepted that 6th-man role. It's the fact that these guys who have been pretty obstinate to change for most of their careers, guys that have been like, I'm me, I'm going to do me, and that's kind of the way it's going to be. They have adapted beautifully in this role for the Clippers.
Ty Lue is a guy, I said this when they got James Harden. I said, if anybody can make it work, it's Ty Lue. He had to deal with dysfunction as a player, dysfunction as a coach, but he's gotten these guys to buy into it. And, a lot of people complain about the NBA, the aesthetics of it. There's too many three-pointers. They do mid-range. They drive. They score at the rim. They hit three-pointers. Starters, bench, energy. Totally wrong. I was totally wrong. And I'll say this, a joy to watch. Really fun basketball to watch. Score low, mid-range, perimeter, can score in transition. Wow, was I wrong about this one. Hi, everybody. It's me, Uncle Colin. Subscribe here to get the latest from the herd, including exclusive behind-the-scenes videos and more, wherever you may be, however you may be watching. Thanks again for making us part of your day.